What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of T&E Adventures. This episode, we're going to be doing a review or more of a discussion around my gravel bike that I have. This was something that I've mentioned a couple of times through some of the videos that I wanted to do, and kind of got a little push from Greg over at Pedal Vision. He's one of the ones that we team up with to do the Road Less Traveled series, and we've only got one episode out there, but I'll throw a link to that up here in, somewhere across the top. He suggested that I put together a quick review, so here it is. Let's dive into it. Okay, starting off, this is a 2016 Niner RLT 9 2-star build. This bike I got through my local bike shop, Revolution Cycles in Greensboro, North Carolina. If you're ever in the area, go check them out. They are top notch. So this bike has, as I stated, the Shimano 105 components. It is roughly 5-6 years old, I think now, coming up on 6 years. I've got it, I think I bought it in March of 2016. Since then, it roughly has 25,000 miles that's been pedaled through it, whether that's road, gravel, or Zwift. I did use this bike quite a bit on the trainer before I got a dedicated trainer bike, but this bike definitely has seen a lot of pedaling through it. The 2-star build was one of the lower ends. Definitely not spectacular components on there, but the 105 is tried and true. It's a very sturdy drivetrain, and it's pretty close to being bulletproof. The brakes on this are Avid BB7 or SRAM BB7s. Mechanical brakes. They work perfectly fine for my weight and what I use them for. I have experienced some fade here and there with those brakes. Would love to go hydraulic maybe on the next build, but not there yet. The wheel set that came on the bike was basically just kind of a heavy Niner branded wheel set. I'm not exactly sure who manufactures those wheels for them, but they probably build them, for their bikes in-house or something of that nature, who knows. I did swap those out for Industry 9 Trail 245s, which are actually mountain bike wheels. I'll get to that a little later in this video. So this frame is constructed of aluminum. It is a 53 centimeter size. They do a weird odd sizing on these, I believe, and I think it's a 53. I can float between a 52 and a 54 with no issues. My road bike is roughly a medium large, which I think is closer to the 54 centimeter, and my trainer bike is a all-city 54 centimeter. So the bike fits comfortably. It's one of the most comfortable bikes that I've ever ridden. Didn't really have to change much. I did swap out the handlebars for the Salsa Cow Bells to get a little bit more flare to the side, so coming off the hoods and then dropping down into those drops just made it a little bit easier and built in a little bit more confidence from me, just being able to get down to those drops when needed and still being able to reach the brake levers like I want. So this bike is not really much customization to it. It's pretty stock for the most part and just fitted for me perfectly. I've done numerous 100-mile rides on this bike, mostly road. I have not done a 100-mile gravel bike ride yet, but it's on the list. I think the most I've done on gravel is roughly around 86 miles, I believe, with, I think that trip we did 8,000 feet of elevation, and the day before was just shy of 80 miles and like 7,600 feet of elevation. So bike is extremely comfortable. I have no problem sitting in the saddle on this bike for 6, 7, 8 hours. No issues whatsoever. It's a comfortable bike. So I mentioned the drivetrain being a Shimano 105. The rear is a 3211 11-speed cassette. The front is a 4636 chain rings. Those have been replaced. The rear cassette's been replaced probably 2 or 3 times. The rear derailleur has been replaced once, and the chain rings have been replaced as well. They do not make those anymore, so I had to end up going with FSAs, and you'll see that here. So I'd mentioned that I had swapped the wheels out for some mountain bike wheels. I had a Salsa El Mariachi mountain bike, fully geared, that I basically don't ride anymore. I do have the same frame in titanium but it's set up for single speed mountain biking. Around here, single speed is a lot of fun. There's a lot of rollers and things like that, so I just enjoy the single speed a lot more than I do the geared bike. So I removed those wheels off of that mountain bike and I use them on my Niner RLT 9. The issue though is that the wheels are set up, mountain bike wheels are set up a little different than road wheels. They're a touch more narrower on the free hub body. So in order to get a road cassette 11 speed to fit, I had to remove one of the cogs. And you can see here where that cog was actually supposed to be. This then allowed me to put the lock washer, the lock nut onto the cassette and tighten it down. It's one of the higher gears, so I don't necessarily miss that much. I'm in it or past it into the 11 tooth, mostly on descents, and I don't really need that 13 tooth. That's, you know, I think it's a 13 tooth that's there. I don't necessarily need that, so it's easy just to bypass it. Shifts fine. Everything seems to work perfect in this configuration. Now, these wheels are a little lighter, have beefier hollowed out aluminum spokes. They are it's cooler looking. I mean, they definitely have that bling appeal that Industry 9 loves to offer. I have a cross design with orange spokes, and everything in between that is black. The wheel set's, it's tried and true. I think gravel riding, they'll hold up fine. I probably would like to go to a carbon wheel set at some point for my gravel riding. I think I'm, you know, finally down weight-wise in a neighborhood that is okay and safe to use carbon wheels without worry of damage or anything like that. But different story, different video probably in the future. But these Trail 245 wheel set that I got from Revolution Cycles as well when I purchased my El Mariachi fit this bike perfectly. They're stiffer, they add a little bit more stability in the cornering, the descents, and things like that. So I have no issues with those wheels whatsoever. I have gone through several different tire choices with this bike. The first tire choice was the tire that came on the bike, which is the G1 Performance. I think they were 700 by 32C or 35C. These tires were great, but they were very, very, very soft, and they had a very supple kind of knobs on them that wore down very quick. From there, I went to the Schwalbe Racing Ralphs, and I believe those were also either 32 or 35C, still tubed, and after a ton of pinched flat pinched tubes, I decided it's time to go to tubeless. So the first set of tires that I got were the Maxxis Ravagers. These tires are phenomenal. When you're doing double track and you have that little hump of gravel in between, the sidewall knobs on the Ravagers bite into that and carry you over beautifully. You lost no control of the bike, and you gained so much traction when you would cross over. They were just beautiful and perfect. I think I went through 2, maybe 3 sets of those, and then moved on to the WTB Nanos. These are also a 40C tire. I think the Ravagers were a 40C tire. A little bit wider, and being tubeless, I'm able to run between 25 and 30 PSI in these. So I'm able to get a little bit more plush, comfortable ride, as well as a lot more traction. The WTB Nanos has a almost solid small patch of rubber that goes across, you know, all the way around the circumference of the tire. This is perfect for when you're jumping onto road in between gravel bits, or doing some greenway. Here we have Salem Lake, which is kind of gravelly around the lake, but then you can hop on the greenway, which is asphalt. So this helps with rolling, you know, kind of cuts down on the rolling resistance. It gives you a little bit better handling with that tire. Definitely a great tire. Main reason why I went with it though was the gum sidewall, or the gum walls. I love the look of a tan wall, gum wall, and that was the only tire that I could find at this time that offered the aggressive tread that I need, as well as that aesthetic. If the Ravagers ever come out with a gum wall, I'm right back on that train. So hopefully they will. Maybe they do already. I need to probably go look that up. But These tires, the WTB Nanos, are great. I have no complaints with them. Done a lot of miles on these things. They seem to hold up and last a long time, which is kind of good as well, because we all know tires for bicycles are not cheap. I mean, they're almost as expensive as tires for cars. So some of the things that I have added to this bike, the bags. I have a Roadrunner, believe it's called the half wedge frame bag. Perfect for throwing in a handful of tools, extra tools that you probably use on longer rides, a tube or two, plenty of room for that, and food. I typically stuff food in this thing and just, I graze throughout the ride all the time when I'm doing gravel rides. So I'm able to pack enough food there, plus jersey pockets. Just works out really, really great. So the stem bag that I have on here is from Swift Industries, and it's called the Sidekick stem pouch. You can see here that I mostly use that for putting the GoPro in or my phone. It has a drawstring at the top, it mounts nicely. I may move this to a front position versus behind the bar, just to keep from sweating into it. I did notice that one of the last rides that I did, which was the Wilson Creek ride, there were times when the lens would really fog up. Now, it was January and it was 75 degrees. I think it was New Year's Day. Crazy temperatures. Actually, I think it was 65 to 70 degrees, but crazy temperatures in the North Carolina mountains for January. But it was also extremely humid and it caused the lens to fog up. But I was sweating down into it. Sounds gross, doesn't it? Into that bag. So maybe moving it a little bit out of the way of sweat drops off my face, my head, will help keep that fogging issue from happening again. We'll see. I also have the Backcountry Research race strap that I use for my tools up underneath the seat. I'm kind of in between. I use it sometimes, and sometimes I just throw my tools in that frame bag. But depends on how much food I need to pack. It depends on the situation, how long we're riding. I may move my tools back to under the seat. I've had one of these straps fail. Mountain biking, it wasn't that big of a deal. I was able to turn around and grab all my tools. I heard it hit the tire. Everything was good. I believe Greg over at Pedal Vision, this last ride that we did at Wilson Creek, had his fail. He did lose everything but his tube. So he loses his tire levers and the CO2 tank. But these hold that stuff perfectly. I also keep a Crank Brothers multi-tool in that strap as well, and keep it wrapped up in an old cut-up tube just because it gets a little rusty, and I don't want that wearing into the spare tube that I have and causing a hole that will leave me stranded on a trail somewhere. So it is an awesome strap. I use it more on the mountain bike, but from time to time I'll even use it on the road bike just to be able to carry some tools without throwing them in my back pocket. Not a huge fan of weighting down my jersey. It just kind of adds a little extra stress on your shoulders and so on. So I had mentioned that I have roughly 25,000 miles on this bike, maybe even closer to 26 by the time I release this video. But the majority of those miles are either road or virtually. I did have this set up on a trainer for a long time. I started off with the Kinetic road machine with I think Smart Control, and it was, that was my days of finally getting fit, using Zwift training programs that they offer, and started dropping some weight, gaining some power, and being able to enjoy a lot of these climbing rides that we like to do on the gravel bike. It's sat on there for the most part. I eventually got a Wahoo Kicker and moved it to the Kicker. Worked great. Another phenomenal trainer. But then eventually, I think after another year of using the Kicker, I went to the Tacx Neo 2T, and the disc brakes kind of rubbed the sides. So I ended up just buying a dedicated trainer bike. Now the gravel bike doesn't get quite as much miles, which is a good thing probably. It doesn't have a lot of pedaling going through it, I should say, because on a trainer you're not really gaining miles. You're sitting still, stationary, right? So I probably have hundreds of miles on gravel on this bike through various areas of Pisgah, North Carolina, or the Pisgah Forest in North Carolina, Bent Creek. I've got thousands of miles of road. I have a wheel set for this bike. They are the DT Swiss Spline 24s, I believe. They were set up tubed for road, and I would just interchange, swap the wheels out as needed. This made a lot of things a lot easier. Going with a direct drive style trainer, I can just pull the rear wheel off, drop it on the trainer. Then if I wanted to go gravel ride, I put the gravel wheel set on, already set up, tubeless and all that kind of good stuff. Or if I wanted to do road, I just put the road wheel set on there. So that made things a lot easier. This bike was the bike that I was using when I did my first Century ride back in, I believe it was 2016. It was brutal, but this bike got me through it. Since then, I've done numerous 100-mile rides on it. I've done numerous virtual 100-mile rides on it, and it's comfortable. Like I said before, 6-8 hours, it doesn't matter. It's a comfy bike. I've also got, as I was mentioning, thousands of miles on Zwift with this bike, and being able to sit on the bike for 4, 5, 6 hours, no issues whatsoever. I believe I've done the PRL full in London on Zwift, which at that time took me a little over 7 hours to do. And yeah, I had to get off the bike a couple of times to rest or relieve my backside, but it was definitely a comfortable ride given the circumstances. The majority of the gravel that I've done on this bike has been in North Carolina. I mentioned the Pisgah National Forest, Bent Creek, Salem Lake is, I probably have a few thousand miles of gravel under the tires of this bike just there alone. But we did in 2018 make a trip up to Vermont, and we participated in the Rasputitsa of 2018. Hit gravel, road, rain, snow, ice. The Siberia section was just brutal. It was not even, I wouldn't even call it double track. It was like off-road vehicle style trail. 2, 3, 4 inches of snow and ice on top of that. So it was brutal, but it was a fun ride. So if you ever have the opportunity to participate in the Rasputitsa, please do so. Vermont Overlanders also do a great job of videoing and filming. I think they assist with the setup of that and everything, so go check that out. We also have the URE National Forest near here, and they have off-road vehicle trails as well, ORV trails, and there are several routes that will take you through their gravel and then onto these trails. The park, I guess it's a national forest, shuts down for off-road vehicles as far as your Jeeps and buggies and things like that from the end of December all the way to the 1st of March. So this is prime time to go try the gravel there. You can still camp, I believe, year-round at Arrowhead Campground. So if you need some camping to be able to participate in some URE gravel, it's there if you want. But URE is not your typical North Carolina. You climb up for 9 miles and then you descend for 9 miles. You basically are on rollers, but the elevation is there. So I believe we've done a 20-25 mile ride and gained over 3,000, close to 4,000 feet in those 25 miles. So elevation is there. Well, that's gonna be it for the video about my RLT9, my gravel bike. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Please post up some comments below, and we could start a discussion on different topics around the gravel bike. I'd like to hear from you guys on what it is that you're using for your gravel rides and your setups and things like that. So please post those in the comments below. As always, like this video, hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button 2 times. Make sure you get that second time in there though. And subscribe to the channel. Help me produce more of these videos. And subscribing is one of the ways to do that. It kind of throws me in that YouTube algorithm to be able to produce more. I hope to get more video out. I know I've been a little kind of lax on getting this stuff out there, but want to do more. And then share this stuff with your friends. Please, please, please share. Give me some feedback on how I'm doing, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next adventure. All right, so this video was brought to you by Sierra Nevada's Hazy Little Thing. Hazy IPA, one of the best I think out there. I'm not a huge hazy IPA fan. I do enjoy a nice, juicy, fruity IPA, and Sierra Nevada puts it in the can, makes a great beer, and I absolutely love this stuff. So cheers.